Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschati. So, last night, for those of you who were in class, you may remember that we had discussed that the first item of Krishna consciousness is to do what is ever favorable for your devotion, for your cultivation of Krishna consciousness. And the Second item of surrender, second item of bhakti is to avoid what's not favorable. Very simple idea. Common sense, right? You want to get somewhere? Take the direct road. If there's an obstacle, go around it. So, why don't you come in? There's plenty of room. Here. Yeah, come in. The farther you are away, the less attention you will pay. Believe me. It's better if you come in. I will guarantee you that much. You'll get more when you're inside. Yeah. Come up front. Other people will come. Yes, please come. So, we were discussing, in general, why would anybody do something that's not good for their spiritual life? Or why would anybody do anything that's not good for themselves on any level? And so we discussed that when we lack self-care, we may do things which are harmful for us. Like, for example, an addiction. An addiction is defined as doing something which is bad for you that you can't stop doing. So we all have little addictions, right? But little addiction, big addiction, it's the same principle. Something we're doing, it's not good for us, and we can't stop. So we're actually we're the ones doing damage to ourselves, nobody else is doing it. There's a beautiful statement. You don't die from a snake bite, you die from the poison. You don't die from a snake bite, you die from the poison. What does that mean? Well, you ever get bitten by somebody? By their words? That's not what hurts you. It's your reaction to the bite, the poison. The poison that we perpetuate within our own mind and body as a consequence to how we are treated, right? So, some people, if they're not treated well, they take it lightly, they take it easily, they don't get so upset. Other people get very upset, maybe upset for the rest of their life. Maybe they're still upset from the last life and they'll be still upset in the next life. So, did that unkind action or unkind words of a person, was that the cause of your suffering? Not really. The cause of our suffering was our response to it. So we become responsible for how we process the world and situations, and we become responsible for how we're treated. For how we treat ourselves. So if you're more self-caring, you treat yourself better. And if we're not self-caring or not self-caring enough, then we may be the cause of our own suffering, the cause of our own misery. So, I'm going to read today's slide. This is called Our Material Condition Affects Our Spiritual Condition. I had mentioned this yesterday. A lack of self-care on the physical, emotional, and social level will negatively impact our spiritual lives because material problems and instability directly affect our spiritual stability. Premature transcendence, quote unquote, attempting to transcend or deny our human needs prematurely will disrupt our progress on the path of bhakti. So, when we talk about spiritual self-care, it doesn't only mean just caring directly for your spiritual life. It means caring for things that affect your spiritual life, which is practically everything. As you know, if you're mentally disturbed, if you're physically disturbed, your spiritual life will suffer, right? Yes? Have you ever been in extreme stress? For whatever reason, you lost your job, you're worried about this and that, then try to chant Hare Krishna when you're in stress like that. Sometimes it's impossible, right? Because all you can think about is the problem. Has that ever happened to you? You're chanting, but you're just thinking of the problem. So a material situation is having a negative impact on a spiritual situation. You ever get in a fight with someone, especially someone close to you, and you try to chant the next day, and all you can think about is how wrong that person is or how they mistreated you. That ever happened to you? If it hasn't happened yet, it will. Maybe it hasn't happened because you're not chanting. But when you start chanting, then you'll see that controlling your mind's not easy all the time. And so things which disturb us, then it enters our chanting. And we can't focus. If there's a very disturbing event in your life, it's really difficult to focus. Problems in the family, and they can impact in a negative way our spiritual lives because the stress of it, the disturbance of it, will tend to pervade our mind and heart. Okay, so we go to the next slide. So this is an affirmation. I'm going to read it and then we're going to say it together. An affirmation is a statement which we try to say as if we believe it. Like, even if you don't believe it, try to say it like you believe it. Try to feel it, even if you don't feel it, try to feel it. So I'll read it first and then you can repeat together. Self-care is foundational to my spiritual advancement and empowers me to do my best and be the best version of myself. So let's repeat. Self-care is foundational to my spiritual advancement and empowers me to do my best and to be the best version of myself. Yeah, so I was explaining last night when we were answering questions. I asked one a devotee, I forget his name, I asked him the question. Do you think if you cared more about your spiritual life, you would chant better? And he said, yes, of course. It's kind of an obvious question, right? If you cared more about yourself, would you do everything better? Yeah, of course. Would you take better care of yourself? Yeah. Better care of your health. Better care of the things that are important. Of course. So, if we have more self-care, we'll naturally take better care of everything, and naturally we would take better care of our spiritual life. So those of us who are chanting japa every day, we know that sometimes it's difficult to control the mind, difficult to sit down peacefully and chant around. It's difficult to find the time and so forth. And some devotees, they analyze that the difficulty is they just don't like to chant. And I would ask the same question to that person, even though you say you don't like to chant. If you cared more about your spiritual life, you think your chanting would be better. Yes. Right? You agree? Don't you think? Yes? No? Anybody alive? You're all breathing? Okay, let's see if we can get this. Don't you think it would be better?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought you all died. I was kind of a little nervous. Like this lecture is so bad they all left their bodies. Or maybe you all went back to God. That would be good. So you might say something like, I don't care enough about my japa, that's why I don't chant well. That's what we would normally think. I don't care enough about my health, so I don't eat as well as I should. Maybe I don't exercise as much as I should. Maybe I don't drink enough water. This and that. But that's not really the fundamental cause. The fundamental cause is I don't care enough about myself to care about the things that would be good for me. It's more fundamental. You're blaming it on the thing, but that's not the problem. Well, the gym's too far away, or whatever. I don't want to go. I don't have time. Like we're making excuses based on the circumstance. But the real thing is, we don't care enough about ourselves. So if we care more about ourselves, all those things that maybe we're procrastinating on, of the things we should give up, or the things we should do, you'll start doing them. It'll be easier. Isn't that amazing? So naturally, the questions has to come up, well, how do I care more about myself? How do I increase my self-care? Because that will make everything better. Even addictions to alcohol and hard drugs can be overcome by more self-care. Because pretty much addiction is you're destroying yourself. So I think it's obvious self-care would help you overcome an addiction. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So we're starting another section here. Well, we're not. This is still introductory. So why don't you just say a little prayer right now that you can imbibe the mood and practices of self-care that we're going to teach. Like you're here, you're studying this, so you can pray, that you can actually imbibe it. So just for a moment, pray to Srila Prabhupada, your spiritual master, for help to learn and imbibe more about self-care. I think a lot of us need help in becoming more self-caring. So we need to pray for mercy so we can be more self-caring. Let's go to the next slide. Now what we're going to do, the one before that. So now we're going to pray, not for ourselves. Can you move the cursor off there? Yeah. Thank you. Now we're going to pray for everybody else. So all the devotees online and all the devotees here. We're going to pray for one another, that all of us can become more self-care. So you can offer your prayers to the other devotees for their well-being. Okay. So this section is called Internalizing Self-Care. So we're not going to talk about so much about the external forms of self-care. We're going to focus more on the internal, because anything in life, if you get it, you get the internal. You get the mood, the consciousness, the understanding internally, then you automatically will do it. But if you understand only the external, you may not do it. It's like, if I were a doctor, and I'm not, and I don't think I will be, I'm a little old for that, but if I were a doctor, I know from my own experience, if a doctor tells me what to do, but he doesn't tell me why, I may not do it. If the doctor says, you don't do this, you're going to have a heart attack within 6 months, I guarantee, and explains to me exactly why. Like, okay, I'll do it. Right? So that's more of the internal, like why should this be done? But if he just says, you have to eat this and take this, and it'll be good for you, I might not do it because I don't understand. It's just like, it's external. This is what you're supposed to do. So we're gonna understand what are the components of a self-caring mindset, of a person who's self-caring, what's going on inside them, in their heart, in their consciousness, in their mind, because we want to develop that mindset. And then if you have it, automatically things in your life will change. Isn't that amazing? Like, so many things will change. It's true. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. To properly care for oneself, the mentality that I am worth taking care of myself is fundamental. With this mentality, self-care is natural. Without it, self-care becomes minimized or neglected. So sometimes, you know that feeling, I should do this, but I don't do it. And I say something like, yeah, whatever. You ever said that? What's the Hindi for whatever? Is there a Hindi for whatever?
Yes.
What is it?
जो भी होगा जो भी होगा
Jo bhi hoga?
जो भी होगा right. Whatever will happen जो भी होगा
Oh, yeah. Prabhu, you should do this. Yeah, whatever. So, whatever is the mantra of a lack of self-care. Jo bhi hoga? Jo bhi hoga is the mantra of someone without self-care. It's like, so when we think about that, then a natural question comes up, is why am I thinking like that? Like, why don't I care? And there may be many reasons. But first we want to recognize that is a bad sign. And it could be, as we're staying here, could be just like I'm not that important to care enough about myself. It's like, who am I? Doesn't matter. That kind of thing. Okay, let's go to the next one. So, I've listed some self-care characteristics here. You can see on the left. These are the self-care characteristics. On the right, these are the lack of self-care characteristics. So, we'll go through them and we'll just show the difference. If you're a self-caring person, you'll have self-compassion. The opposite of self-compassion is self-apathy. What we just said. I don't care. Self-acceptance. The opposite of that is self-berating. You beat yourself up. You make a mistake and like, I'm so bad. I don't want to face the world. I just put myself down. Self-love. What's the opposite of self-love? Self-hatred. Yeah. And feeling worthy of love, the opposite is feeling unworthy. I don't deserve it. So, the left column, these are the components of a self-caring mentality. The right column, maybe we have some traces of this, or maybe we have a lot of it. But if you have what's on the right side, you're not going to be very self-caring. And if you have what's on the left side, you will be. And if you don't have what's on the left side, then we're going to try to help you develop. Is that good? Okay, let's go. So we want to go from I don't care to I do care. And I don't care is the enemy of self-care, self-acceptance, self-compassion, and self-love. So that's like, have you ever said, I don't care, to something that you should care about? That should be a red flag. Like, okay, this is a problem. And we need to solve this problem. Okay, so the next slide. So I want you to look at this chart, and I'll explain it, and then I'll ask you to kind of analyze where you think you're at. So, the lowest form of self-care is self-hatred. It's the most opposite. So 1 is self-hatred, and 2 is less intense. It's just I don't like myself. And then you get around 7, it's I don't care about myself, which is less intense than I don't like myself, but usually some I don't like myself is involved, and I don't care about myself. And then most of us, from doing this workshop multiple times, most devotees are like, most people are like in the middle. Sometimes I care, sometimes I don't care. I take care of this, but I don't take care of that. I work hard at my job, but I don't work much on myself. I'm good with money, but I don't take care of my health. It's not consistent. Right? So when you get to about 12, then that would be consistent. Like in all levels of your life, you take care. Because if you have care, if you develop self-care, then you naturally would care for everything. It wouldn't be. But when our self-care isn't fully evolved, we care for some things and not others. We kind of choose what's important. And then what we do sometimes is, in order to succeed at something, we'll fail at another thing. Like to get ahead in our career, we'll lose our health. What do they say? You give up your health to make money. When you're old, you spend all your money to get your health back. Something like that. So that's quite common. Maybe today it's less, but you can focus on succeeding in one area of your life and totally neglect another area to do that, right? So that wouldn't be a self-caring person, not fully. That would be like a 10 sometimes, I guess. And then self-acceptance means I may not be perfect, I may not be what I want to be, but I don't beat myself up. I accept myself, and I know I can be better, but I don't minimize myself. And that if I love myself, it just encompasses all the self-compassion and self-acceptance. So, just make a mental note right now where you think you're at on this scale. And if it's under 12, that's not good. So I put a little light on 12. So my goal as a teacher, or as your teacher for the next, 5 more days, 4 more, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5. My goal as your teacher for the next 5 days is before I fly back to Alachua, you're all at least on 12. Maybe some of you are on maxing out the dial in bleeping purple and blue and effulgent light. So we're gonna discuss how to get this from I don't care or whatever, or sometimes I do care and I care about some things and not other things, to more about I always care about everything. I was saying last night, like, sometimes we don't realize, we don't think caring about certain things is important. But when you don't care about something, what happens? It creates a problem. If you didn't take care of your car, what happens? One day it breaks down. You don't take care of your marriage, one day it breaks down. You don't take care of your health, one day it breaks down. So, it's, don't think you can kind of like escape the system. I won't take care of this and that, but I'll be okay, because it will come back to you. If your health goes out, what happens to your spiritual life? It goes out with it. If you don't believe me, try sleeping 12 hours a day for the next week and see how Krishna conscious you are. So when you're sick and you're sleeping all day. Yes. You know what Chandramauli Swami said? I never heard Prabhupada say this, but Prabhupada said, of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, the most contaminating is sleeping, meaning oversleeping. I don't know if any of you ever experienced that. You ever get really sick and you're sleeping 12 to 15 hours a day? How does that feel? It's, situated in the mode of ignorance. It's very contaminating. So, I don't take care of my health, and that's what happens. And then my spiritual life suffers as a consequence, or I have problems in the family, then I'm disturbed, and it's upsetting my life, and that's affecting my spiritual life. So, if you're only partially caring, it comes back and it gets you. Okay, the next one. So we're going to say this affirmation. I will read it, and then we'll read it together, and then again, try to say it like you totally accept and believe and feel it. I care for, accept, love, and show compassion to myself because I value myself and my Krishna consciousness. I replenish myself as needed. So together, I care for, accept, love, and show compassion to myself because I value myself and my Krishna consciousness. I replenish myself as needed. So, this word self-compassion, you might be wondering, well, what is self-compassion? Because we're always about compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Self-compassion means giving yourself what you need, giving yourself the Krishna consciousness you need, the nourishment, and, material and spiritual, psychological, whatever you need. And self-compassion also means when you make mistakes, you don't beat yourself up. Just like, for example, if you have a friend that makes a mistake, you probably say, it's okay, we're only human, everyone makes mistakes, you'll do better next time. That's generally what we would say. But when we make a mistake, sometimes we just condemn ourselves. So self-compassion would be similar to the way you would treat someone else who made a mistake, like understanding. Oh yeah, well, it's the first time you did it, and everyone who does this makes mistakes. You can't do it perfectly the first time. That's just kind of how you'd see it. But if we make a mistake, we don't always see it that way. I think, I'm so stupid, what an idiot. And you're just kind of very hard on yourself. And then you might think, I need to be hard on myself because that's how I'm going to get ahead. Well, I have news for you. It's not. It's been studied. And you don't get ahead by being negative. And I think that should be obvious. You can push yourself for a few days, but in the long run, it's negative. It's going to wear you out. How can negative make you positive when you're always berating yourself for not being good enough? So self-acceptance and self-compassion, they kind of work together. Okay, this is how I am. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a work in progress. We're trying, and especially one of the beautiful things about Krishna consciousness, which is different than material life, is that Krishna doesn't really care about the result as much as he cares about the effort and the consciousness with which we make that effort. So, like when Krishna sees you trying, even if you fail, your effort's more important to him than your result. I mean, you could get a good result without any bhakti. So that's not what pleases him. So, Krishna's not like an ordinary person who's going to evaluate you based on your performance, and they're going to like you if you perform well, and not like you if you don't perform well, because that's the way this world works. And you well know, you get judged by your position, right? Like in where you work. You got a business card that says you're like CEO of some, of Google in St. Louis. Like, whoa. They'll be polishing your toenails, right? But it's just head garbage collector. They won't even give you the time of day, right? So that's the way the material world goes. And you don't want to bring that consciousness into Krishna consciousness, because it's not how Krishna thinks. He doesn't care what position you are. He just wants to see you try your effort. So I cannot be perfect, I cannot be great, but I can be self-accepting because I'm trying. I tried my best. Maybe my best wasn't great, but I tried my best so I can be self-accepting. It doesn't mean, the devotees often think, well, if I'm self-accepting, I won't try. But it's not true. I mean, it could be true if your self-acceptance is really tamasic. But if your self-acceptance is sattvic, you wouldn't stop trying just because you're self-accepting. It just means you're not beating yourself up, but you're still trying. This is the best I can do, but I'm going to try to do better. So this one devotee said, Prabhupada accepts all of us as we are. Prabhupada, he loves us so much that he accepts us as we are, but he loves us so much he won't let us stay as we are. So that's the idea. You love yourself so much that you accept yourself, but you love yourself too much to allow yourself to stay where you are. So that's. Don't think that loving yourself, accepting yourself, being self-compassionate is going to make you apathetic. It's really the opposite, because look at it this way. It's really simple. Self-care, self-acceptance, self-compassion, self-love, these are very positive emotions. So how could you go bad? How could you go wrong with positive emotions? It's like mathematically impossible. Does that make sense to you? I got to beat myself up. I got to be hard on myself like that. You do that with your kids. What's the result? When they're 18, they're like, let me out of here. Isn't it? You have that experience? Yeah. Why are you leaving? To get away from you, because you've been punching me my whole life. So, we think that's going to work. Maybe if they're afraid of you, it works, but after a while, it's not a great motivator, because it's not positive. And so the greatest motivators are positive. Inspiration comes from positive things. So self-compassion, self-love, self-acceptance, self-care is all positive. And self-loathing is all negative. So how is that going to help you? How can such negative emotion help you become positive. It doesn't, not permanently anyway. And that's been studied and proven. I'm not just saying it off the top of my head, although I think it's obvious. Isn't it? Okay, so we're going to go to the next one. Now this is going to be interesting. For those who were wondering, did Prabhupada ever talk about self-care? So we're going to look at some of the quotes where Prabhupada's talking about it. So you can go to the first one. So this is a letter. No, this is a conversation in Mayapur in 1977. First of all, save yourself, then try to save others. Or both things can go on simultaneously. The same example. If you want to save somebody who's drowning, you must know that I may not be washed away. I have to remain strong, then I can save him. So, this is a theme that comes up. Sometimes you may have heard Prabhupada say, quote the saying, physician, heal thyself. So, I want to take this a little deeper, because this is quite interesting. I think this is obvious. Don't try to save someone who's drowning if you don't know how to swim, because then there'll be two people drowning instead of one. So better one than two, right? So, if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a story where Mahaprabhu is dancing and in ecstasy, and everyone around him is getting love of God. And those people went back to their village, and people who saw them got love of God. And then people who saw, it was a Prema multi-marketing program. And you see this devotee who's been touched by Mahaprabhu, and then you get touched by seeing. Right? So, if you understand how Krishna consciousness spreads, it doesn't spread externally, although it looks that way. We need buildings, we need books, we need so many things. But you could have buildings and books and nothing could happen. Right? That's also possible. There's a lot of big churches, and it's not like necessarily people are becoming that spiritually advanced. But when we are advanced, then when people come in our association, just by being with us, they advance. Right? So when Prabhupada says, save yourself first, I think it's much deeper than meets the eye. Because ultimately, you could spread a movement you could spread the Hare Krishna movement without spreading Krishna consciousness. Because you could just have external form. You could have form, the form of it. But what really changes people is us. If we carry Krishna in our heart, and we have some affection for Krishna, that's what affects people. I mean, look what Prabhupada did. How did he do it? What if your job was to go to New York in 1965 and chant Hare Krishna and preach Bhagavad Gita? And you knew Bhagavad Gita and you knew how to chant Hare Krishna. Could you get the same result as Prabhupada? Even if you said exactly what he said? Did exactly what he did? No, we couldn't, because we're not him. So it's important to understand that our evolvement is really the main thing that affects people. So as we're taking care of ourselves and we're taking care of our Krishna consciousness, we're doing a great service to other people. It's not selfish. We're actually serving other people, because the more we become spiritually advanced, the more we become those who can inspire others and those who can do more to help others, right? Does that make sense to you? Yeah. So, saving yourself, in one sense, is the most selfish thing you could do, right? And it's the best thing you could do, because it will have the best effect. Let's say, I heard this. Maybe you heard this also. It's really interesting. There's this idea that if you get rich, you'll all go to your head and you'll become a bad person. But what actually they found is that if you get rich, you just become more of what you're already like. So if you're a generous person and you become rich, what happens? You just have more to be generous with. And if you're a miser and you become rich, what happens? You become more of a miser. Isn't that interesting? So if you give yourself the wealth of Krishna consciousness and you're a pure devotee, you're trying to be pure, what will you do? You'll give it. So it's never, you can't be selfish, because the more you get, the more you'll give. And you'll have more to give. And if you don't have much, what can you give? So when Prabhupada's saying save yourself first, it's not only that he's thinking, these are my disciples, they need to be strong so they can go back to Godhead. It's also so they can help others. That's the best. The best way to help another person is help yourself. So we're never selfish. Because, like the generous person, it's never bad by having money. The more he has, the better. The more he has, the more he gives. Okay, the next one. So this verse it's obvious this is a verse on self-care. We all should know this verse. Yukta hara viharasya yukta chaitasya karmasya yukta swapna babodasya yoga bhavati dukkha. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all pains, material pains, by practicing the yoga system. So that's a self-care verse. Like I said, I believe I said last night, maybe I didn't. Every verse is a self-care verse. I think I said it, yeah. We'll go to the next one. So this is interesting. We do a study of the modes of nature, and where does self-care come up in the modes of nature? If we study actions in the mode of goodness, we see they're good for us, isn't it? Like anything in the mode of goodness, isn't it good for you? You go through Bhagavad Gita, the chapter on the modes of nature. Everything in mode of ignorance is bad for you. Everything in passion causes eventual misery, and everything in sattva is good. So passion causes misery, and ignorance is destructive. So going to the last paragraph here. Since Krishna encourages actions in the mode of goodness, he's encouraging us to care for ourselves rather than engage in activities that either cause us misery or are self-destructive. That's pretty simple, isn't it? Like, where's self-care in the Bhagavad Gita? Everything Krishna says to elevate you is good for you. So everything Krishna says is self-caring for us, isn't it? Because he's only asking us to do things which are elevating and good for us. So, as devotees, we're trying to live in Sattva-guna, and from Sattva-guna we can transcend. So if we try to live in Sattva-guna as much as possible, then we're always going to be doing things which are good for us. Right? Pretty simple. And all your problems, and all my problems, and all the problems in the world are caused by being in passion and ignorance. That's why, if you ever wonder, why you have problems, look at the modes you're in, and then you'll know why. Okay. The next one? Okay, here's the affirmation, everyone. I will say it, then you'll say it, and say it like you mean it. I save myself first.
I save myself first.
Okay, turn to the person next to you and tell them, I save myself first. Say it like you mean it. Turn to the person next to you. Say it like you mean it. I save myself first. Yeah. Okay. You're doing good. Okay, this is, I titled this slide, Spiritual Suicide and Self-Hatred. So it is 7:30. What time are we ending? We're supposed to end at 8 o'clock, right? Yeah. So we have this stop sound for questions. Last night was 40 minutes of questions and answers. All right. So I'll read a few more things that will help us. So this is we're going to have a little discussion on why the Shastra says things like spiritual suicide, envious of oneself, self-hatred, and killer of the soul. You find this all in Prabhupada's books and in Shastras. Like, what does that mean? Shastra uses words such as self-envy, spiritual suicide, and killer of the soul to describe any thought or action that moves us further away from Krishna consciousness. Such actions are thus considered spiritually suicidal, since we are the ones killing our opportunity to become Krishna conscious and go back to Godhead. So, that's an interesting idea, isn't it? If I do something consciously making a choice to do something that's bad for my spiritual life, what have I just done? I've acted out of self-hatred. I've acted against my own well-being. So I'm acting as if I don't even like myself. Although consciously we don't feel that way, but practically that's what we do. And we're making a choice. I could go up, I could go down, and I make a choice that goes down. What have I just done? I've harmed myself. And I'm killing my spiritual opportunity, so killer of the soul. So we go to the next. Yes. So this is an example of one way you can harm yourself, is by harming somebody else. By offending Maharaj Ambarish, this is a verse, Vishnu is talking to Durvasa. By offending Maharaj Ambarish, you have acted with self-envy. Therefore you should go to him immediately without a moment's delay. One's so-called prowess, when employed against the devotee, certainly harms him who employs it. Thus, it is the subject, not the object, who is harmed. So, this word self-envy is sometimes confusing because envy means you want something that someone else has. So how could you be envious of yourself? Because how could you want what you have already, right? And so everybody gets confused, like this doesn't make sense. With a little further study, then you'll find out that Prabhupada is using the word envy as hatred, both in Sanskrit, dvesha, which means hatred, and in Old English, envy meant hatred. So if you say self-envy, it means self-hatred. So, you know the story, Durvasa is trying to escape to the Sudarshan Chakra, and he goes to Vishnu, all the way up to Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma. Nobody can help him. He goes to Vishnu, and Vishnu's like, nah, sorry. You have to go to Ambarish Maharaj, because he's the one you offended. And Vishnu's trying to explain, when you hurt somebody else, you hurt yourself. Every time you hold on to something as a retaliation to get back at somebody, you hurt yourself. Isn't that interesting? So if I'm even justified at getting back at you because of what you've done to me, if I'm self-caring, I have to consider, what is the value of doing that? Is it going to hurt me more to try to retaliate? And in many cases, the answer is, yeah, it's going to hurt me. So why would you do that? Because he cheated you and whatever. Okay, I want to rectify it. That's okay. But sometimes in the process of rectifying something, that it gets even worse. Ever had that experience? Try to fight a court case. You end up spending more money than you're going to get sometimes, or you're going to get so little, it's not worth it. So often, a person who's self-caring, they understand this principle that when I harm another, I'm harming myself more. When I resent another, I'm harming myself more. I'm drinking the poison, not them. So let's read one more and then we'll have some questions. This is from Bhagavad Gita. He does not know that the present life is a preparation for the next life. Not knowing this, he is actually envious of his own self as well as others. So again, he's acting out of self-hatred. So the guest asked the question. In your books, in the above quote, you mention that if one does not take the time to understand how his activities are producing his next life, then one actually becomes envious of his own self. Can you further explain that? Prabhupada, yes. If he's going to become a dog next life, and he does not take precaution, then is he not envying himself? In other words, the same point. You could go back to Godhead, but you live like a dog and you become a dog. So that's really, objectively speaking, you're acting out of pure self-hatred. So, okay, we'll end here for now because we want to leave time for questions. and try to end at 8 o'clock if that's possible. So Chakri Das has a question. You can take down the slideshow. Yeah. You want to unmute Chakri, or I don't know. Do we have any questions? Can you check the chat? See if there's any questions.
Not yet, Prabhu.
Okay. Chakri has his hand up. Maybe he has his hand up and he doesn't.
Yeah,
It was accidental.
He's not aware, maybe.
Not aware. Okay. So does anyone in our studio audience?
I see there is one chat room.
Okay, another question. Why is it? Is that the first question?
There is one.
Well, we have a quote here.
He's commenting.
I'll read this quote. 11:20:17 Srimad Bhagavatam. A human being who does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of his own soul. Same principle. Why is it easier to accept others than accepting ourselves? That's a very good question. Because we don't... Well, there's many reasons why we wouldn't accept ourselves. But let's say, for example, because you know yourself so well, you find something about yourself which is not acceptable, right? I am like this, I am like that, so I just feel like that's so bad. I can't accept that for myself. But would you feel that way about other people? I don't think so. Yes, you know, and you don't even know them that well. And I think it's also the objectivity versus subjectivity. We tend to be harder on ourselves. We tend to expect more from ourselves. And it's a good question to ponder. Because if you ponder it deeply enough, you'll start to realize, if I am not giving myself the same affection I give to others, something's wrong with me. Somewhere down the road, something got mixed up here that I thought I'm unworthy of the care I give to others. And, you know, it's nice to be self-sacrificing, but I save myself first as the mantra. You know, like, oh, there's so many mothers here. If you're sick, you can't take care of your family. Right? Isn't it? You ever think like that? Like, the flu's out, everybody's getting sick, and you think, I can't get sick. Because if I get sick, who's going to take care of the other sick people in the house? Or if they do get sick, right? Isn't it? Yes? Yeah. I think the best answer to this question, Shamali, is for you to ask this question to yourself. And just contemplate it and say, why? Why would I not care enough about myself? I think you'll understand why. There may be things in your own heart, in your own past, that would explain why. You know, if you grow up being told you are a certain way, then when you're older, that's just how you'll think about yourself, because that's what you were told. And maybe you were made not to feel like so valuable. So then you think you're not that really worth it. Right? That's possible. Not possible, that's what happens. So that could be a reason. There may be many reasons. It's a question for you to contemplate. Sometimes it's not easy to answer. Like sometimes you'll ask yourself and you'll think, I don't know why. It doesn't make sense. Why I don't care. Like, so why don't I think I deserve self-care? Or is it just that I think I deserve it, but I'm so much in the mode of ignorance I just can't pull myself out. I'm too weak. What is it? Have I been programmed to have a certain image? Like I'm less than others, or my life is meant to be lived like a martyr, sacrifice at the stake for others. You know, there may be so many reasons. And I know some devotees are thinking, but shouldn't you sacrifice yourself? That's good. You should sacrifice yourself for others, yeah. It's good, but how can you sacrifice yourself for others if you don't save yourself first? Then another thing, Shamali, if you go deeper, you will see that the more self-accepting you are, if you become self-accepting, you can be more accepting of everybody. So any lack of acceptance of other people may stem from your own lack of self-acceptance. I hope that's okay for now. Why don't you meditate on it and come back tomorrow and you can share your realization of what you discovered.
I'm not sure that it's been answered before. Or self-care, selfish care. Where do we differentiate?
Yeah. Like I said before, a devotee can't be selfish. Selfish care would be, I care about myself and the whole world can go to hell. It's like running a business, and creating a cheap product and it's bad for people, but you don't care because you're making a lot of money, so who cares? Like that. So if you care about others and you want to help others, you would have to care about yourself. Otherwise, you won't be able to render the best service to others if you don't have enough care for yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but at certain point that whether I am qualified to help others or not, I should take care of.
Yeah, because you will become qualified. But if you take care of yourself, especially spiritually, you will definitely be qualified. That's how you become qualified. You have to take the time. Like loving yourself. Okay, you love yourself physically, emotionally, socially, but loving yourself spiritually is the highest form of love. And if you do that, you'll naturally want to give that to other people because you'll be so happy. Does that make sense? You have to, and you just try it and you'll see. Yes.
Hare Krishna. I'm just thinking in that context of that I'm being in this material world because I was loving myself and I was envious of Krishna.
Yeah.
And for the reason I left Krishna and I came here, but seems like after hearing this whole thing that actually I'm doing totally opposite. I'm not actually caring. I'm just driven by whatever I'm carrying from my past life or from my childhood, and I'm just trying to fit in. And I think my thoughts are going in that whatever issue I'm carrying, I'm coming to Krishna consciousness. If I have example, I have abandonment issue.
Yes.
And I come to Krishna consciousness and where the main thing, you renounce things. And you renounce yourself also, you're amending. So you're getting more opportunity to abandon yourself.
Yeah, could be, yeah.
So it seems like we need a lot of training and, a lot of long way to go.
It's very easy to misunderstand the philosophy, and if you have an issue like that or other issues, it's very easy that that issue becomes magnified. And then you could have abandonment issues with your guru also. Right? It's like, yeah. Yes. And also, we came here to love ourselves, but that was the material body. So we weren't really loving ourselves. So for us as devotees, self-care is, it's pretty clean and straight because we're caring for ourselves spiritually. So like with your question of being selfish, it doesn't really come up when you're caring for yourself spiritually. Because you care, as you care for yourself, that care gets turned into service. And in regards to your specific issue, It's just you have to be aware of these things and see how it could be harming you in the name of service. In the name of devotion, could be some dysfunction. You know, in the name of dependence, could be some kind of weakness, codependence. That's harmful. And I've seen all these things. Like every dysfunction in the book, I've seen it in ISKCON. And many times gets magnified in the spiritual circles because it's seen as something spiritual and good. But it's actually making a problem worse, and the person doesn't want to deal with their problem. So they're circumventing it, trying to circumvent it through Krishna consciousness, but it often gets worse until it finally gets them and they don't realize it. So, you have to deal with these things. It's an interesting thing is that when you experience Krishna consciousness, it's very blissful and satisfying. And it can seem that like all these other problems that I have are just gone. I don't have to worry about them. And in many cases, a lot of them go, but not necessarily all of them. But we don't deal with them because we think they'll all go. Or maybe we think they've gone when they haven't. But it's always good to be aware. If you have a problem, you have a problem. That was a very profound statement, wasn't it? Because we have a problem and we think we don't because we have a nice kirtan. But after the kirtan, what happens? If after the kirtan, you still have a problem, then you have a problem. There was a Buddhist monk. He wrote a book. I think it was a book called "After the Ecstasy of the Laundry." It's like you got to come down to real life after the retreat and the ecstasy and the parikramas, and then you come back. It's like to the pile of laundry and dirty dishes, and all the stuff in the mind and everything. So it's important because, like I said, it affects us. And so when you deal with those other problems, it helps your Krishna consciousness. Otherwise they come out and they become issues in your spiritual life. One of the biggest problems we see is blame. And so blame is a problem. It's a worse problem in Krishna consciousness because you're blaming devotees, which is offensive. Especially if you're blaming them for something they didn't even do. So, in that sense, that one bad quality can really, exacerbate and be a big problem for you if you don't understand it and deal with it. Because now you're dealing with devotees. If you have a critical nature and you join ISKCON, that's dangerous if you don't control it. Because now you're criticizing devotees. So naturally one would think, well, I need to work on my tendency to criticize or my tendency to blame, or maybe I don't know how to communicate, I need to learn because I'm having bad relationships with devotees. And that's like really bad because we desperately need good relationships. So, yeah. Okay, Mr. Bruce has his hand up.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Bol.
We did this amazing exercise on Sunday. If I fully surrender to Krishna, what if? So ultimately, this ended up as one of the most intense self-care exercises I've ever done because it was so challenging.
Wow.
But the realization was that all the what-ifs led to answers through the association Amazing Devotee I was talking with.
Wow.
All the what-ifs landed with surrendering to Krishna. And yet, knowing that as the ultimate self-care, there's still a reluctance to have that full faith and that full surrender.
I have the solution.
But yet,
I have the solution for it.
I can touch the answer, I can verbalize the answer.
Yes, of course.
But yet my heart is just still reluctant.
Yeah.
And you kept saying the answer to all questions is, well, stupid.
Don't be stupid.
Figure it out.
You want another solution? This is a great one.
Please.
Okay,
Please.
if you have any resistance for anything in Krishna consciousness, like I couldn't give this up or do this, just do it for a week. And that'll be the best week of your life. Guaranteed. Or your money back. It's like, I like, if I surrender to Krishna, it's going to be tough. And no, it's not. But how do you know? It's like any fear. You always overcome fears by just facing them and doing them. And every time you do it, you go, oh, it wasn't that bad. So, I think the best thing we can do with our fears of surrender is just face them and do them. Do it for a week. It's like, it's only 7 days, just be in the moment. Tolerate it for 7 days. It's not like going to Ukraine and fighting a war. And you can do it. Of course you can do it. Whatever you have to do. I mean, don't surrender beyond your ability, capacity. That's not going to work. But whatever those little things are, just shove them down the toilet for a week and see what happens. And if you're not satisfied, then you don't have to surrender next week. And if it's working,
I'll call you for my money back.
Yeah, get your money back. I'll send you a check for $0. Then if you like it, you continue, right? But I think part of the problem is surrender is a mentality. That's really what we're working on, is the mentality of it, not necessarily. The actions will follow the mentality, right? So work more on what the mentality of surrender is. I'm not God. This week, Bruce is going to stop playing God for 7 days, and he wants to see how it goes. All right. 7 days without playing God could be the best 7 days you've ever experienced since you came to the material universe. And like you say, we understand it. But sometimes, because of that reluctance, we just have to push ourselves. I'm behind you. I push you off the diving board because you're sitting there mental about diving. And then I push you off and you jump off the diving board and you go, hey, that was fun. Let's do it again. So you do something Krishna conscious that you were afraid to do, and you'll feel like, oh, that was so blissful. Let's do it again. I want more of that. That's the easiest way to do it. Otherwise, you could remain mental forever. You'll be like 98 years old, and you're like, yeah, I know I should surrender, but, and we all think, I need a little more time. Well, this is like the 7th zillionth, trillionth, bazillionth lifetime, so how many more lives do we need to make that decision? So we have to think like that. It's not like this resistance is just going to go so easily. And so one of the ways it goes is we just fight it head on, and then we experience, okay, Krishna, I'm in your hands now. And that'll be the best place you could possibly be. And do it for a week, see what happens. If it tastes good, keep doing it. If it doesn't, adjust it to what is sustainable. But surrender is actually an illusion. We're already surrendered. I can't surrender to Krishna. All right, well, he doesn't supply the earth, the water, the rain, and everything, then what do? So you are surrendered. So it's an illusion that we're not. We're dependent. I don't want to depend on Krishna. I want to be Krishna. Well, yeah, if you're Krishna, you're dead. Because no air, no sun, no rain, no nothing. It's all gone. We're all dead. If you're Krishna, we're all goners. Right? So, Krishna, it's good that you're God. I'm glad you do it better than I do. And Krishna, you're all blissful. If I just hang out with you, I'll be blissful also. Right? So just try it. Try giving up playing God for a week. It's going to be amazing. And a lot, it's like it'll be the easiest week of your life because you don't have to compete with Krishna. That's hard. That's hard work. So this week, no competition will be the easiest week of your life. Right? Think about it. Anyway, that's what I would suggest.
I will try. Thank you.
Yeah, just do it for a week. You don't have to try for a week. After a week, you have to try. This week, you just this is the other thing. Let it flow. Don't even worry about it. It's so easy. Just like let it happen. Like, yeah, you don't have to try. Just let it happen. And how do you let it happen? You just don't resist. That's all. You don't have really much to do. Just let Krishna be God this week. You know, he does a good job. And just let him be God. You don't have to get in the way or anything. So, that's a better way of looking at it. Like, just let him be God, and I'll let myself be his servant, because that's how it is eternally. And we'll see how it goes this week. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we have a question from Rukmini Ramana. Is it true that the mind doesn't make distinction between reality and a thought? I mean that a thought is the same for the mind as if it is reality. That's why I should work on my affirmation. That is true. Because you can practice something in your mind. You don't have to actually do it. The mind doesn't know whether you're practicing it or not. It's just going through it in your mind. Or if you are afraid of something, you ever been afraid of something and it's not even real? The mind doesn't know it's not real. So your body's freaking out. All the stress hormones are there because you think it's real and it's not. The mind doesn't know. You think you're smart, you think you're stupid, the mind doesn't know. You think you're stupid, it'll make you act stupid. It doesn't, you have an IQ of 205 and you think you're stupid, you'll act stupid. Because the mind doesn't know what's real. It just knows what you think. And it makes that real. Have you ever met a very intelligent person that didn't think they were intelligent, but thought they were kind of stupid? Have you? Yeah. Or a very talented person that didn't think they were talented, and so they couldn't really perform at the highest level because they didn't believe in themselves. Yeah, it happens all the time. Okay, I think we should stop here because you're going to get prasadam now.
Maharaj, if you like, we can take maybe, we can go until 8:50 if it's okay with you.
I don't see any more questions.
Okay.
So, self-care, does it develop attachment, or is it good to have attachment with self-care? Or
you mean, should you be attached to self-care? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Krishna conscious self-care, yeah. Like, I should be attached to having a good morning program of sadhana. I should be attached to that. And I should do it every day. That'll be good for me. And I should do things that are healthy. I should do things that are good for my relationships. All these things. It will all be good for you in your spiritual life. So you should do all those things. I mean, you can't do all those things if you're not self-caring. That's the point. If you don't have sufficient self-care, your spiritual life won't go very far because you won't care. Right? It's too hard. Spiritual life is not easy because we're so conditioned. It's not natural. It's not like going out and playing a sport you like. There's no struggle. You just like it. But spiritual life sometimes I don't feel like it. I got to sit down and chant. I don't feel like it. I should read, but I don't like to read. So, if you get yourself to do all those things, wow, beautiful, fantastic. How will you get yourself to do those things if you don't love yourself? At least a little bit. You don't care about yourself at least a little bit, enough to do it. I mean, we're all here because we care about ourselves to some degree. We just have to continue, care more. I mean, none of us thought, I'll become Krishna conscious because I'm selfish. We didn't think that, right? But we thought it was good for myself. Yes?
I have a question about how to deal with the kids if the kid says, I don't care? What?
If-
If the kids says, they're like mainly the teenagers.
regarding what? They don't care.
Anything.
School?
Any discussion.
The thing they will say, I don't care.
They start with I don't care. Then they,
So most of the parents have the same issue.
I'm really not the best person.
It's affirmation
My
from
daughter
all the
just-
parents.
My daughter just came out good, so I didn't have to deal with a lot of this stuff. I mean, we raised her in Mayapur, so that was like, that helped. I mean, you know, young people's intelligence is not developed, so that's why they don't, you know, intelligence sees consequences. You have to help them see consequences. You know, if you do this now, when you're 25, this and that's going to happen. I don't care. That's a sign of no intelligence. It's like, where's your brain? You know, like, I don't know. I'd have to see your kids to figure out how to deal with them. Well, you could use the same thing. When they say, are we going on vacation this summer? You just say, I don't care. Try that, see how that works. And they'll get frustrated. You say, why don't you care? Say, I learned that from you. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. My question is from yesterday's class. So your first affirmation said how I treat myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you gave, we have to give importance to ourselves and our thought process, how we accept ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
rather than how other people expect us to be.
Mm-hmm.
So in that process, if we get hurt by someone and there is a situation where you can forgive the person, but you cannot forget about the situation,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how hard you try. So how you channelize that emotion into a positive one.
There's many ways you can do that, but I would address the statement when you say you can forgive, but you can't forget because you're still hurt, right? Okay. So now, if I have more self-care, I could process that situation in a way in which I could grow, I could learn, and I could eventually give up those ill feelings. I could actually do that. It's like, you said you can't, but you can. You really can. And a more self-caring person would default to that behavior. In other words, I don't need these ill feelings, they're just hurting me, right? Right? Those ill feelings are hurting you, right? I would ask you, how could you let those go? I said, how could you let those go? If you had more self-care, more self-love, then self-love would be manifest by letting go of anything toxic and negative and harmful. I would. And so I would ask you, how could you let it go? Well, you should think like that. And rather than think, I can't, think, how can I? That would be self-care. Because if I care about myself, I don't want to live my whole life carrying this negative emotion.
I don't care about that feeling.
What?
I don't care about that feeling.
I don't want it. I don't need it. It's harmful. If you're trying to be a devotee, there's actually no room for that feeling because it's tamasic. It's anger. So I'm trying to be a devotee, I'm chanting Hare Krishna, and inside I have all this anger towards someone. It doesn't work like that. So you can let it go, but you have to start thinking how. I could give you a hint, but I have a whole forgiveness course if you want to take it. We'll give the address to everybody. We'll have a self-care course finished soon. It's all online, self-paced, but when we are hurt, someone has touched something that is a soft spot in us. It triggered something, a weak, a sensitive. That's the word I'm looking for. Someone has hit a sensitive part of us. Because often, two people are treated the same way, and one doesn't get upset, and one does. Because the sensitivities are different. They're different people. So, what were you expecting that you didn't get? And the next question is, why were you expecting it? And the third question is, can you give it to yourself instead of expect it from them? And if you realize, well, I was expecting this and they didn't give it or they couldn't give it, and then ask, well, why was I expecting that? Why do I have that need? Where did that come from? And if I didn't have that need, would I even have an issue? Probably the answer is no, I wouldn't. So those are interesting questions, to contemplate. Everybody has certain needs, and if the needs are excessive, then that's where we get hurt, in those spots. Isn't it? You don't get affection from somebody who you expect it from. If your need for affection is very intense, that'll kill you. But it's less the person and more us. And so it's an opportunity to improve ourselves. Like just saying I can forget, but that feeling won't go away. That's an opportunity to deal with that. What if you get hurt tomorrow? And next year, you'll have all these feelings piled up that you can't let go of. That's not healthy, is it? So, one way of looking at it is, okay, Krishna is revealing to me something that I'm sensitive to, and I need to figure out what it is and heal that. Otherwise, it's going to get hurt again. Right? Most likely. Maybe it has already been hurt more than once. Anyway, if you want to take the forgiveness course, we'll arrange to send out the link to everybody. But for now, that's something. Okay. All right?
One quick thing I was thinking about the teenagers with saying I don't care. If we're the example for them of caring and of self-care, then they see that, and that will build. It's like building strata. It will build faith in the process of taking care of yourself. And the second thing I was thinking with teenagers is, if you listen to them, spend time actually listening and be empathic with them and enter their world and care for them in that way, then they'll actually open up and they'll start sharing what they do care about and what is really, their aspirations, what they want. So you have to enter their world.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you for that.
Okay, so just everyone can give 3 Haribos to Mahatma Prabhu. Haribo. Thank you so much. We have Mahatma Prabhu. He doesn't charge for these things. He travels one way that, and he lives off of donations. One way he receives donations is if you go and you purchase something. He has books. He has amazing T-shirts. And his books are all about the things that you're hearing right now, about transformation, about secrets to how to apply Krishna consciousness in difficult situations, all kinds of nectar.
We have classes on USB, 700 of them. And we have about 50 hours of kirtan.
Yeah, the USBs.
They're here.
We have to find those. They're missing in action. But we may have those in the next couple nights. We'll figure out where they are. So right now we have the books, T-shirts, and can you talk about your japa book?
Oh, yeah. We have a japa affirmation book, which I wrote by accident at the plea of a devotee, and it is proven to be appreciated far beyond what I imagined. And there are 20 affirmations to put you in the right frame of mind for the optimal japa, because if you're not in the right mindset when you chant, you're not really chanting. You're kind of chanting, but not really. So these affirmations put you in the optimal mindset. And we also have cards of these affirmations. They're beautiful. Each card is a picture and affirmation. So that's very helpful for your japa. Anyway, you can go to the book table. He'll sell you everything. He's a good salesman. Better than I am.
Anything else?
Do you have anything else you want to talk about? Your items, your details, or you're good?
Well, the T-shirts are just different, really cool spiritual messages, like tolerate happiness. What are some of the others?
Now, when the kirtan starts, all problems go stop.
You're full of chit.
Sadhu in progress.
I like the sadhu in progress one. Husband in training. Please tolerate.
Husband in training. That one we said.
Anyway, you go over there, you can look.
Thank you.